Hey guys, I know it's been a while. It's been a really crazy year for me, but I'm back. And I'm going to be pumping out as much content as I possibly can. But I need your help. Ever since I started posting shorts, the algorithm started reducing my reach on my long-form content. So I'm going to make a second shorts channel called Dr. Han's Shorts. I'll link it in the description so you can follow. But any engagement, comments, likes, shares, it's all going to be able to help to get my reach back from what the algorithm did to me. Thanks again. Let's get into the stories. For hundreds of years, tourists and paranormal investigators have been baffled by the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. The owner, Charles Townshend, wed Dorothy Walpole, a young lady, back in the 1700s. For a while, they lived in Raynham Hall together contentedly. But Townshend soon developed a paranoia about his wife's infidelity. He ultimately chose to hide Dorothy away in the hallway and inform everyone of their friends and relatives that she had sadly passed away after driving himself insane with jealousy. Dorothy was only permitted to roam the mansion's halls while she was compelled to remain inside. She never left Raynham Hall after her husband imprisoned her, and she passed away soon after. People have reported seeing a woman in a ragged brown dress wandering the halls ever since she passed away, and some of these encounters are very terrifying. Unaware of the tale surrounding the Brown Lady, one of the visitors approached the woman in the hall, and she looked at him with a glowing face, but where her eyes should have been, there were only empty sockets. After countless sightings, and many years later, Raynham Hall was photographed for a feature by a photographer from Country Life magazine. He took a picture of the main stairs and noticed a blurry figure that many people think is none other than Dorothy Walpole, also known as the Brown Lady. It's been documented that the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall wanders the passages every Christmas. Legend has it that an eccentric woman haunts an old Victorian house. On Christmas Eve, a spectral group from the Stark family continues a tradition they started many years ago. Numerous sightings, especially around Christmas time, have been recorded by visitors to a Victorian property in Ludington, Michigan, which is said to be haunted by the souls of the Stark family. One such ghost, Vera Stark, seemed to have carried her oddities from this life into the next. As she did in life, many who have seen her spirit say she picks flowers in the front yard while wearing nothing but a fur coat. Some even claim to have seen the specter of a Stark daughter who tragically died in the gym of the estate as she wandered the hallways. The home's current owners said, "Our spirits did not care for it being open to the public and went wild" when asked about their plans to open the house to historical tours. Over the decades, many people have documented that Alcatraz Island is a very haunted place. Interestingly enough, there is a story about how an Alcatraz Christmas party was supposedly interrupted by a ghost. Even though the solitary penitentiary on San Francisco Bay in California, Alcatraz, shut down in 1963, the ghosts of the inmates who previously inhabited the island have haunted visitors and observers ever since. One of the most famous ghost encounters at Alcatraz, often referred to as The Rock, was told over Christmas. The prison has a reputation for unexplained and terrifying psychic experiences. While the institution was still running in the 1940s, Warden Johnston chose to have a modest Christmas celebration at his island boarding house. At one point during the assembly, some of the sentries started relating the tale of a ghostly form that had materialized, wearing a gray suit, brimmed cap, and sporting mutton chop sideburns. While the guards were frozen in shock, staring at the spectral apparition, the room suddenly turned very cold, and the fire in the Ben Franklin stove was extinguished. The specter disappeared as abruptly as he had emerged. On Christmas Eve, Sir Geoffrey de Mandeville's specter and his lifeless dog roamed the streets. There are several political betrayals in Sir Geoffrey de Mandeville's story. In the 11th century, he was a prominent European landowner who held the horrific Earl of Essex. He held considerable sway in the realm of royal politics due to his title. Nevertheless, he was excommunicated from the church and bequeathed a large portion of his wealth when a controversy arose over who should succeed to the throne. Many think that Sir Geoffrey's spirit became stuck in this world since he was killed on the battlefield during his excommunication and was not permitted a proper Christian burial. The rumor has it that Sir Geoffrey cursed the domains he possessed, saying that his betrayer would meet destruction if they were ever taken from him. Every 6 years on Christmas Eve, he and his headless dog dressed in a scarlet cloak would haunt the lands. Following his death, frequenters of the properties he owned, especially Pimsbrook Bridge and East Barnet, began reporting paranormal activity, including the emergence of a headless dog from the fog and the appearance of a knight clad in full armor and a red cloak. In England, there's a house known as the Bramshall House, and it is haunted by the legend of the Mistletoe Bride. For millennia, people have spun variations of the Mistletoe Bride legend. The disappearance of Lord Lovell's bride at Bramshall House in Hampshire, England, is thought by many to be the story's original source, though this is not confirmed. Bramshall House's owner, Sir John Cope, was said to be the young woman Lord Lovell was getting ready to marry. Since it was almost Christmas, mistletoe was draped throughout the mansion, which gave the wedding party an idea for a game. The young bride-to-be would disappear someplace in the mansion, and the groomsmen would search for her until they discovered her. The first person to find her would get to kiss her. The bridal party set out to locate the bride after she fled. Still, they were unable to locate her, as the minutes grew into hours. When she vanished, and they could find her nowhere, the game eventually became really serious. It took Lord Lovell 50 years to discover a hidden closet in an upper floor room of Bramshall House, while still looking for answers regarding his bride's abduction. He discovered a wooden trunk within that was locked shut. When he opened the chest, the almost indistinguishable remnants of his bride were within. A Brooklyn home was plagued by phantoms around Christmas. Edward F. Smith was at his Brooklyn, New York home a few weeks before Christmas 1878 when the doorbell rang. When he answered the door, nobody was home. The doorbell would ring every night, and Smith would always discover no one outside and no indication that anyone had been there at all. This eventually became a regular occurrence. Exhausted, Smith sprinkled ash and flour along the path to the door, expecting to find footprints left behind. But the substances were undisturbed, and the noises continued. The noises remained unidentified no matter where he and his family stood in the house. The doorbell was ringing non-stop, and Smith and his family were becoming increasingly alarmed. They eventually got in touch with the cops. Nothing could be found to explain the continuous ringing and thumping. One evening, a brick came flying in through the window from outside, despite the fact that cops were standing close by and could see nobody. Police spent a considerable amount of time investigating the house, but they were unable to determine what was causing the disruptions. Smith came to the conclusion that the bizarre events had to be of paranormal nature, as did many who witnessed them. Roos Hall is said to be haunted by a headless horseman every December. One of England's most haunted locations is said to be Roos Hall, a strange estate in the countryside. Since it was initially constructed in the 16th century, the mansion, which is situated in Suffolk County just outside the tiny town of Beccles, has amassed a considerable number of ghost stories. The Headless Horseman tale is amongst the most terrifying. Although this legend is well known to many, it takes on a life of its own at Roos Hall. A guy on a horse has been reported by many guests of Roos Hall, riding toward them on the road, only to find out later that he is headless. On Christmas Eve, the headless man is said to frequently be seen clattering down the driveway with his phantom coach and 4 horses. And this is just the start of Roos Hall's spectral life. Some have even reported seeing a girl observing the weird markings from the windows, which they refer to as the devil's footprints, according to other tales. It's said that Bastion Square in Victoria, British Columbia, is haunted by a Christmas ghost. Just as the clock was striking midnight, ushering in the joyous Christmas day, a misdeed, as dark, cowardly, and mysterious as ever disfigured the history of this province, was perpetuated, read a chilling story that ran on the front page of the Daily Colonist, a newspaper published in Victoria on December 25th, 1890. The target, a 21-year-old man going by the name David Fee, had been strolling after attending a costume party to meet his parents for evening mass at the neighboring church. Fee, wearing a white clown outfit, had just reached the cathedral's location when a man emerged from the shadows, pointing a double barrel straight at him. He said, quite simply, "You challenge me." The man shot Fee before he could say anything, and Fee died a short while later. It seems that the man mistook Fee for someone else. It's said that Fee's spirit has been haunting his tomb in the streets outside the cathedral ever since that fateful night. There is a legend that a murdered highwayman reappears every Christmas Eve. One particularly macabre ghost story from England refers to a terrible incident that happened on Christmas Eve in the late 1700s. Legend has it that there once was a dangerous highwayman who went by the name Gilbert, who would walk up and down one of the main routes in the town. Gilbert captured a guy and his daughter who were riding in a horse-drawn carriage one evening, the night before Christmas. The girl managed to get out of the carriage, but the horses were startled and ran off down the road with the guy and his coachman following before her father could get out. The man's daughter was left behind with Gilbert, and the two men battled to regain control over the horses so they could return and find her. But when they returned to the scene, she was nowhere to be seen. Rather, they found Gilbert crouched on the ground, a dagger embedded in his side. There is a rumor that as the bus drove away, Gilbert confessed to the girl that he had killed her brother sometime earlier. The discovery infuriated her, and she stabbed him before running from the scene. According to local lore, Gilbert was buried by the side of the road and is said to roam the same route on Christmas Eve, waiting for the coach carrying the man and his daughter to pass by once more. Every Christmas Eve, Anne Boleyn is rumored to return to her childhood home. Once home to the Boleyn family, Hever Castle is tucked away in the heart of Kent, a rural area in Britain. The most well-known member of the family, Anne Boleyn, spent her formative years there before being married to King Henry VIII. But within the castle, after a few short years of her marriage, Anne became the focus of dissension and rumors, which accused her of everything from infidelity to witchcraft. She was eventually put to death when her husband publicly accused her of committing these crimes. Hever Castle, the childhood home of Anne Boleyn, is supposed to be haunted by her ghost, regardless of whether she is grieving or just homesick. But apparently, she only shows up on Christmas Eve, one day a year. There are rumors that her somber specter is seen drifting silently over the picturesque bridge that spans the River Eden and the grounds of the home where she knew much happiness. It's said that at the Hotel Bethlehem, a spectral socialite sings Christmas carols. A little girl named Myuu is the subject of one of the scariest ghost stories told about the Hotel Bethlehem in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Mary, also known as May, was raised on the stage and developed a passion of singing and performing at a young age. She was born in 1866. She received a lot of notice for her talent, and soon she was appearing on stages in Paris and other parts of Europe with considerable success. She even attracted the interest of a wealthy lord, who promptly wed her and elevated her to the status of British nobility. Unfortunately, her achievements put her in jeopardy. After the lord who had swept her off her feet went bankrupt, her marriage collapsed, and she later married an American soldier who embezzled much of her fortune. Reports at the time of her death stated that she considered her time in Bethlehem to be the happiest of her life. Guests of Hotel Bethlehem still report seeing ghosts of a young Myuu, dressed elegantly, walking by the Christmas tree or singing at the piano. Some even assert that they heard her sing one of her favorite songs in a faint but identifiable voice. At the Crescent Hotel, boisterous revelers are said to usher in the season. Without a doubt, one of the most well-known haunted hotels in the US is the Crescent Hotel. Since it was originally built in the 1880s, the hotel, which is situated close to the Ozark National Forest on Arkansas's northern border, has been beset by tragedy and ghost stories. Though virtually every square inch of the hotel's grounds is linked to various folktales and apparition sightings, one tale still astounds guests today. One year, when guests arrived to see the hotel's Christmas tree, it is said that they discovered the Christmas tree and all its packages were mysteriously moved to the other side of the room. This might have been a prank by someone visiting the hotel or staff. However, there were reports of ghosts strolling the dining area of the establishment, some of them clothed in Victorian attire. Some claimed the spirits looked playful, jokingly moving the furniture and gifts across the room. The hotel workers apparently returned the following day and saw that everything had restored to its original location, which seemed to substantiate this. On Christmas Eve, it is said that the ghosts of Poland's kings gather in a dragon's den. Built in the early Middle Ages, the Wawel Castle is located in the center of Krakow, Poland, and has been the residence of every Polish king for centuries. Since then, it has been connected to a plethora of myths and ghost stories that date all the way back to prehistoric times. One such legend is a vast network of caves said to be beneath a local land parcel called Wawel Hill. Since their discovery centuries ago, these caves have been extensively examined, and there are rumors that within them lies a statue of a dragon and millennia of human record. It is thought that people have lived in the caverns from prehistoric times. According to legend, King Casimir, who was only a young boy when he investigated these caves in the 11th century, discovered an unusual tunnel. He stated to have discovered a big stone inside the tunnel that was shining, and the light was said to be releasing a protecting magical energy that spread over Krakow. Legends from the area still hold that on Christmas Eve, all of Poland's former monarchs gather in that tunnel to decide Krakow's fate.